Right, so are you ready for this week's Natural Gardening Live? Are you ready? Because today we're talking about aphids. Aphids. So this week we're talking about not how to clear them out of your garden, how to kill them off, how to eradicate them from your garden, but how they can actually support and maintain the health and well-being of your garden and your plants. Just a little twist on what we normally think of aphids living in our garden. So question for you. Do you have a healthy population of aphids growing in your garden? Do you get that chill when you see them on your plants like I do? Even though I know what I'm about to teach you, what I'm about to say, I know this, but I still, when I see my rosebuds covered in aphids, and my lupins as well, I know that they are going to be dealt with. It's fine, but I still get that cold chill down your spine of like, oh my God, I need to do something with these. So do you have a healthy population of aphids in your garden? And what plants do you find suffer the most? Let me know in the comments. Because it can be a wide variety of different plants suffer from aphids, bless them. And it depends what type of aphid as well. So, as I said, aphids can cause serious damage in your garden and to your plants. They can suck the sap from young new growth. They can spread diseases, stunt the growth of your plants, and drastically reduce the size of your fruit and vegetable crops as well. Form of things, they're not the most helpful for your garden, I will say. I will completely agree if you put that argument to me. This can hinder your garden's growth drastically, but we'll get there. They can provide some sort of support for your garden without taking this drasticness away from them. So without this link, your garden's ecosystem and the health of your plant can actually be compromised. They are better off having a few in your garden or having a healthy population, if you like, of aphids in your garden than not having any at all and completely killing them. With every nuisance insect that we have in the garden that may be causing damage to your plants or eating the fruit or veg, they will have a predator. Now, we've spoken about this before. We have said about supporting the predator support the predator of the insects you want them to kill. So support them by creating a home, etc. for them. Support the predator, and that will help maintain the balance for the prey. So, or the nuisance insect in this case. So aphids provide food for a variety of different insects and work efficiently to maintain the health and well-being of your garden. So there is a variety of different insects, say beneficial insects, pollinators, all sorts of insects throughout the garden, vertebrates, invertebrates, all sorts of different. Without these aphids, the predators won't visit your garden, follow me on this, won't set up home and won't support the ecosystem of your garden. They'll have no reason to go there, they'll have no reason to stay, there won't be a food source for them, you won't have made a home environment for them, so they've got no reason to support your garden. So by having aphids eating your plants, you're actually supporting the overall health of your garden, rather than supporting the overall health of your garden by killing off the aphids. Plus it saves work for yourself as well. So here we have a few predators that eat these squishy little green and black nasties that do actually support your garden, and quite effectively as well. Comment if you recognise any of these. Hopefully you should recognise them. Ladybirds. Now we did a video on ladybirds a few months back, how to support them in your garden, and I did mention aphids in that video as well. Ladybirds, they come in many different shapes, sizes, not shapes so much, they're all round and spotty, but different colours and sizes, most commonly being the black and red ones that we see in the garden, but they also quite commonly see the black and yellow ones as well. They mainly feed on aphids, all the different varieties of different aphids that you can get. They also feed on other soft-bodied insects and sometimes mildew as well. So in the spring, the adult ladybirds will find a healthy population, a really strong population of aphids, and they will lay their eggs in amongst them. So when they hatch and they grow to larvae sort of size, they've got a good food source there ready to grow into adults. The larvae of the ladybird will consume thousands and thousands of aphids over there between hatching and becoming an adult ladybird. So they'll consume so much more of the aphids than they would do as an adult. But they aren't in the larval form very long, so they have to make the most of it while they're there, and they're growing really quickly. And once they get to adult stages, it drops right back to about 50 or so aphids a day. Not sure who sat there and watched a ladybird eat aphids and how many they've eaten, but it's average about 50 a day, thereabouts. So they make up for this over time, because adult ladybirds will live a little bit longer than they would do as a larval stage, or larvae. So the benefit is not just controlling the aphid population, using them as a food source for their larvae as well, which is really good. So it's quite an important part of their entire home environment. Because as I say, without the aphids, they won't have the food source for the young, for the larvae, to then hatch into and feed on. So they're not going to stick around because they'll have nothing to support the young. Hoverflies. Now, not sure I've ever spoken about hoverflies in here before now. Probably have at some stage, I'm sure. They're a very beneficial insect. They're very good. So hoverfly larvae, get my words out, are legless. They're like legless, like maggoty type looking things. They're nearly see-through, so you can see all the inside. And they devour thousands of aphids before growing into adults. Similar to the ladybird larvae, they consume a huge number of aphids before they turn into adults. Now, this is the first benefit that they offer the garden, but once they are adult hoverflies, they actually perform a much more important role. As much as pest control is important, this is much more important than that. They become pollinators rather than insect control, if that makes sense. They are very effective and very efficient pollinators. They'll fly around the garden and they'll find the nectar that they need to feed on, but they can also reach the much smaller flowers that a lot of the bees, the larger bees and larger pollinators can't actually get into. So hoverflies do offer a really key skill, and it pollinates the flowers that wouldn't have normally got looked at, unless you've got a variety of different insects living in your garden, which I always like to promote if I can. So lacewings, if you've seen a lacewing, they're quite pretty to see. So larvae can eat a huge number again of aphids and soft-bodied insects. So a lot of these larval stages will actually eat not just aphids, but they will actually prey on a lot of other sorts of soft-bodied insects, including scale, mealybug, things like that. So they're very effective, I want to say hunters, but they kind of don't move very far. They have, that's why they have to be laid the eggs in the population, so they don't have to move very far to get their food to get going. But they can trek a little bit. They're not too bad. So they'll devour a huge number of aphids, let me get a drink, hang on, and other soft-bodied insects. And they also, as they do with hoverflies, they also become very efficient pollinators when they grow into adults. The adult lacewing is a very, very good pollinator and will travel for miles to get a good flower. So they can really help to support your garden. And laying eggs and hatching them in and amongst the population of aphids as well. So they really do help to clear out the population, or manage, I shouldn't say clear out because you don't want to do that, to manage the population of aphids in your garden. It's all about balance. To be my motto. It's all about earwigs. Now this is my last one, earwigs, just a little bit. So earwigs feed on the small soft-bodied insects and plant material as well. Now these little dudes offer these aren't the larval stages as well, this is like the adults. But they offer a different way of supporting the garden, not just with the pest control, but they do process organic matter, the plant material in the ground. They're extremely underrated creatures. They can help to manage the population of aphids, as I said, but they also help to process and like decompose and break down the organic matter in your soil, which releases nutrients for your plant roots to take up. So without these little dudes and a lot of the other soil-borne organisms and insects and invertebrates that live in your soil, they're incredibly important for creating and providing nutrients for your plants. So it's not all about protecting them from the pests, it's also about providing the nutritional support as well to help them recover from any damage caused by these pests. So it's really important to know about this side as well as the pest control side. As I say, these are just a few of the predators that prey on aphids and soft-bodied insects. Okay, but always keep in mind when you're thinking about the pests that cause damage in your garden that it's all about balance. The only reason they're causing damage in your garden is because they're out of balance. If one population gets too big, that causes damage to a plant. It could be anything, literally any insect in your garden. If the population gets too high, any creature as well in your garden, like a mouse, a rat, a rabbit in your garden, anything gets out of control or out of balance, they're going to cause damage. So it's just nature, that's how it works. So it's all about maintaining balance in your garden. So not eradicating and not clearing them completely out of your garden, but maintaining balance and giving them the space to live without taking over. So when you're looking at your aphids next and you're thinking they're killing off my plants, what am I going to do? Just bear in mind, if you've only just started on this journey of natural gardening and you have only just started to support the nature in your garden, you wouldn't have built the ecosystem up quite as fast as you would probably hope. and it may take a minute or two for the predators for these insects to work out where you are and where these populations of the insects they're looking for are. So give it a minute. If you're really concerned, there are ways that you can manage the population yourself, but just be careful not to clear the entire population out. And knock out the different insects, look out for them in your garden, and then see if you can support them. Find out how they like to live and see if you can support them and encourage them into your garden. Then they will help to slowly but surely over time, they will take over the role of managing the pests in your garden. And before long, you won't notice the problem and it'll just be all balanced and quite happy. But it's just something to keep an eye on every now and then. So it's not about eradicating, it's about balance. Yes, so if you've got any questions, feel free to comment below the live, below this video, and I will answer them as I see them. But have a wonderful day and think about what I said about the looking out for the different insects and see if you can work out how to keep them in your garden, support them in your garden, make little homes for them. If you've got like the insect hotels, things like that, have a look and see how they can support your garden better. So, hope you've had a lovely day. Longest day of the year. Enjoy it. So we'll see you later.